No, in fact, my take was that, or rather, our understanding was that Niti Aayog was actually working on 25% blending roadmap. But now what we are seeing in the press reports is that the government is targeting 30% blending with petrol by 2030. I'm sure it is definitely a challenging target because if you really look at it, even Brazil, which has been blending for a very long time, they've achieved only about 27 odd percent as of today. But if you look at Brazil, they've already introduced flex fuel cars and 100% ethanol cars running on ethanol. So that I think India will have to probably spell out the roadmap for that. And as it is, there's no reason why India should not be in a position to achieve this. But having said that, the sugar sector can possibly only give about 7 odd billion liters of ethanol. And at 30% blending, our back of the envelope calculation tell us that the requirement for the country could be closer to about 15 billion or 16 billion liters of ethanol. These are only ballpark numbers. And to achieve that, you need a massive supply from the maize or the grain sector. And our back of the envelope calculation tells us that the grain sector or maize in particular will have to chip in with closer to about something like 25 to 30 million tons of maize needs to be diverted. But that's a tall challenge.
All right.
And having said this, using maize for ethanol brings with it its own challenges. Like, for example, one of the byproducts of maize distillation is DDGS. And DDGS is actually dampening the demand for soya meal in the country big time. So soybean crushing can get affected, and with the farmers getting better returns from maize compared to soya. So I think the oilseed sector, in particular the soybeans, could be in serious trouble going forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Mr. Chaturvedi, I also wanted to understand with respect to the sugar industry specifically, capacity. I knew that a lot of players in the sugar space had already ramped up with respect to their capacities to achieve that 20% blending mark. But now that we have achieved the 20% blending mark, I want to understand as to where the capacity utilization stand at. Do you think we have enough capacity right now to accommodate that 30% as well? Or do you think that we will have to make more capex infusion in order to achieve that 30% blended mark?
Now, you must understand that the sugar industry possibly at this point of time can only supply a maximum of about 7 billion liters. But having said that, it requires a massive amount of feedstock, and that kind of feedstock I don't think is available as of today. So willy-nilly India will have to use both cane juice and be heavy supply from the sugar sector as well as from the grain sector. So I think both will have to go in tandem, and expanding the capacity from sugar distilleries is possibly not the right answer. What possibly the sugar industry would be doing, and they've already started doing, is to convert these units into dual feed. So when the season is there, you use cane, and when the off season approaches, you use maize, because the same distillery can actually handle both. So you would possibly see capex in the form of having dual feedstock. So that is a distinct possibility, but not in ramping up the capacity as it is. So I think adequate capacity is already available in the system.
Got it.
What is now required is the feedstock.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. And Mr. Chaturvedi, we have been talking about achieving certain amount of blending capacity by 2025. Now we are saying that we'll achieve 30% capacity by 2030. But do you think that the demand for blended ethanol is present in Indian markets? Because we are seeing that the EVs, the CNG cars are also growing at similar pace. So do you think that the 30% blended once achieved will have equivalent demand?
No, don't see any problems as far as demand is concerned because oil marketing companies, it's a very regulated sector. So what is available at the petrol pump is what is going to be filled in your car. So I don't see any problem on that front. But definitely in remote areas like Northeast and all, it's a bit of a challenge in terms of logistics. But I think India has the requisite capacity to take care of that. So I don't visualize any problems in terms of demand. Demand is definitely very strong. But the only thing is that with Mr. Donald Trump in the hot seat in White House and with his motto of drill baby drill,
Yeah.
if the petrol prices keep plummeting
Yeah.
and start moving southwards, so maybe that might affect ethanol play going forward.
Okay, understood. And Mr. Chaturvedi, once that sugar companies start blending ethanol and try to achieve that 30% mark, how does product mix change for something like a Shree Renuka sugar? And then how does that impact your overall margins?
No, surprisingly, this year, with the lower crop, in fact, the returns from sugar have been marginally better than the returns from ethanol. And the sugar industry was anticipating that the government would revise the price of cane juice and B-heavy ethanol upwards. And we were quite hopeful, but that did not happen. So the gap between maize ethanol, which is closer to about 72 rupees a liter, vis-a-vis cane juice ethanol at 65 or B-heavy at about 60. So that is actually discouraging the sugar industry to divert more and more cane juice towards ethanol. I'm sure this aberration would get corrected in due course. And once that happens and ethanol from cane starts giving you better returns compared to sugar, so you would have more diversion happening. This year, if you really look at it, we were initially anticipating 4 million tons of sugar getting diverted towards ethanol. But now our back of the envelope calculation tells us that only about 3.5 million tons might actually get diverted. And that is also largely on account of a lower crop this year. Because the crop this year actually was almost 20% lower than what it was last year. So hopefully next year with the good monsoon being predicted, the crop numbers should bounce back and the sugar sector should be in a position to offer much more ethanol next year.
Right. All right. And one last question, Mr. Chaturvedi. Where do you see Shree Renuka playing its role in terms of this ethanol blending, and what are your forward plans with respect to where ethanol blending is concerned?
As far as ethanol blending is concerned, Renuka is at the forefront, and our capacity utilization as far as the ethanol is concerned is absolutely spot on. In fact, during the season time, we've been running at about 125% capacity as far as ethanol is concerned. And we are seriously evaluating a dual feedstock capacity expansion. So that is definitely something which is being evaluated very, very seriously, because Karnataka, where most of our distilleries are located, is also growing a lot of maize. So we are seriously evaluating that as well. So I think going forward, there's no reason why ethanol should not continue to be playing a major role as far as our overall revenue mix is concerned.